Okay, so this is my final project of database management systems class. First of all, I like to apologize for the watermark, but it's the only screen recorder I could find. So now getting into the project, my project is called the Travel Browser. It is basically a website developed on PHP, implementing a SQL database that allows users to search for museums, cities, and art pieces that are spread across the globe. Uh, to help the user search through these things, some of the features added in the project were a faceted search for the art pieces. There's the ability to create personal plans uh, so that the user can add their pieces they want to visit. There's the ability to write reviews in museums, as well as to see some analytics of the database that I'll explain forward. So, getting through the demo walkthrough of the project, this is the main application, and first that we can see is that the UI is not that good, which uh, is because I focus more on working the database part. So getting into that, the first thing we see here are these four buttons of cities, museums, art pieces, and analytics. The first three are kind of the same. What they allow the user to do is to click on some cities and get some insight that I'll explain later in my table. So the cities and the museums will do the exact same thing basically, but as we go into art piece, we'll see that uh, we have a faceted search that can help us filter out some results. For example, I can go through results that only include Leonardo da Vinci as the author. So these are all, and then I can filter it even more if I only want his sculptures. I can filter that too. I can also filter out by a range, so all the paintings that are on a specific range before um, 1600 and after 1200. And finally, something I think it's pretty important in this kind of website, it will be uh, to have the ability to search through paintings that are to art pieces that are in a specific country in their museums. So, for example, these are all the paintings that are the art pieces that are in museums that are in this country, which is Mexico in this case. So, getting back, we have the analytics part that can show the most popular items, and this is acquired from the page that I'll explain in a second. There's also the ability to check the best reviewed museums. This is based on the best average. Finally, these are the museums that have the most star ratings. I'll explain this when I go through my queries. And finally, this is the user page that doesn't have any verification. Again, to focus on the database part. But if I enter, for example, my name, already have some uh, rows that are saved into my plans. So what this basically is you can add either art pieces, cities, or museums to the same table with the ability to delete them. So example, I want to delete Mona Lisa, I can do so. Then I can add uh, a new one. So if I want to add it again, I can do so, but I cannot add it one more time because it's already in the plan. I can do the same for either cities or museums. Uh, and then finally, this is the review page that also has the ability to add it. If I want to add this one, for example, I'll create a review, and then I can enter the rating, and it'll add the database. So here it is, and I also have the ability to update it if I want to, so I can change it to a 3-star rating. And finally, I also have the ability to delete it. So that is my main uh, that's basically all of the features of the demo. So going back to the presentation, go through the ER diagram that has the main tables, which are museum, city, art piece, review, and plan. The first three, museum, city, and art piece, are pretty much the same table um, that are connected, as in a museum can only be part of one city, but a city have many museums. Art pieces can be can have no museums, or but they can only belong to one museum at a time. But a museum can own many art pieces. A review can only be part of one museum, but a museum has many reviews. And finally, a plan can have many of the either museum, cities, or art pieces, and it is a weak entity because uh, it is defined by a combination of the username as well as the IDs in each of the pieces. So this is pretty much how the ER diagram would work. Now going through the tables again, we have those same tables. Our piece has the piece ID, the name, the author, painting type, creation year, the museum ID. There's some constraint on the creation year, and the museum ID obviously references the museum. Uh, a museum. Then we have this is the review table uh, that has the review ID, the author, a rating you can enter, the museum with the rating being uh, between 1 to 5. City museum is pretty much the same. City has the population, the countries in, and the language. And museum has the address of the museum type, uh, and a city ID that it's a foreign key to city. Finally, this is plan which has the username, the ID of the item added, the name of the item. Uh, it also has of what it inherits from, so either museum, city, or art piece. It has a type, uh, which is basically pretty much the same, and the primary key is a username and the ID. So going through the most difficult queries. These are the queries used in the analytics. This is the first part to get the most popular items, and how this is done is by selecting the items from plan, grouping by the cities. So what you'll basically be doing is to from the plan table, it'll count the number a certain city is in, and they'll define it as the most popular ones. So if 5 users have enter the same city, uh, it'll get a count as of 5, and it'll output the top 5 uh, cities. And this works the same for museums and for art pieces. Then there's this second query that is the top museums by best review average, which kind of has the first one, groups by museum ID. It checks that it has at least more than one review, and it orders it by average, but by the average rating, and it outputs the top 5 again. And to get the museums with the most 5-star reviews, what it'll do is kind of as the first one will group by museum ID. Uh, it will count uh, the number of rows where rating equals 5, and it'll output the top 5. Uh, so how it was tested, it was pretty much just going uh, coding something and test it out. I started by developing the tables and tested the queries first in the with the database without using uh, the website basically. And as I started developing more and more the website, well, started using more, but the testing was pretty straightforward. Some of the challenges was that I wasn't as familiar with PHP as I would have wanted to work in this project, which was certainly an issue. Because my main issue was to send post data from pages to pages was quite struggling. I found it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be, and I tried to get some user verification as well. But as I wasn't that familiar with the language, I just decided I'll prefer to focus more on getting the database working. And finally, for some future improvements, there will obviously be some image support um, to display images in the website. We'll have obviously to have the better UI and to solve the verification process in the users. Probably to add a password and have it to be kind of a strong password. But pretty much that is all the presentation. Uh, so with this, I'll conclude. Thank you.